All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Duncan, and I am a librarian with Peace Library System. Today's session is all about graphic novels in the library. So we're going to be going over a few different topics today. We're going to start with what is a graphic novel. We're going to define what it is. We're going to talk a little bit about why we should read and promote graphic novels in the library. We're going to discuss some recommended reads. So I'll give some choices of books you might want to bring into your library if you don't already have them yourself. We will talk a little bit about manga, which are Japanese comics or Japanese graphic novels. We will also look into some award lists. So this can be really useful for building your collection of graphic novels and getting some ideas, maybe some series or standalone books that you've overlooked. And then we will take a look at some shelving ideas. So how we're putting graphic novels in the library, how we're displaying them so that they can be findable. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about Free Comic Book Day, which is coming up in May. It is the first Saturday of May every year. But we are going to start with a land acknowledgement. Peace Library System acknowledges that we are located on the Treaty 8 territory of the Cree, Beaver, and Dene people and Region 6 of the Métis Nation of Alberta. We are grateful to live, work, and learn together on this land, which has been home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples since time immemorial. We recognize this land as an act of reconciliation, and we also commit to supporting and celebrating our local Indigenous communities while working to break down institutional barriers to make our libraries equitable and accessible. All right, what is a graphic novel? So let's define what a graphic novel is exactly. By expert definition, and this is comes from Scott McLeod and his book Understanding Comics, The Invisible Art. A graphic novel can be described as it can be described as images in a sequence intended to convey information or produce a certain response in the reader. So the term graphic novel is kind of this umbrella term, and some will argue for that, some will argue against that. But in the context of today's session, I'm just going to use graphic novels for mostly everything that it covers. So things like comics and manga, I'll just be saying graphic novels. The term graphic novels, you might also see it be used to describe a collection of comics. So comics, or rather American comics, tend to be released in small issues before they're collected into an omnibus version, which is termed a graphic novel. So instead of having to track down and read comic issue number 1 or comic issue number 2, the reader is able to read all those issues in one place in the graphic novel omnibus. Now, I've put some different page layouts here from different types of graphic novels. So we have a Spider-Man one on the left here, which is illustrated in full color. This next one is from Fun Home, and it's giving some partial color, so it's shaded in blues. This is a page from a manga. This is from Naruto. And this last one is from Signal to Noise and is a more abstract page layout. So this is just to give an example of how different and I guess adaptable graphic novel pages can be. All right, it's important to note that graphic novels are a medium, just as books, film, and music are mediums. They're not a genre, right? So it's not in the library, it's not the fantasy section, the nonfiction, the graphic novels. Graphic novels can be fantasy graphic novels, and they can be nonfiction graphic novels. There's all sorts of types, all sorts of genres within the medium of graphic novels. And a popular misconception is that they're just for kids. However, I do think us in library world have definitely progressed past that criticism. There's a lot of popularity and reverence for adult graphic novels. Things like The Walking Dead, for example, are huge and is based off the graphic novel series. So I've listed some examples of how graphic novels can cover all sorts of ages and how there is something for everyone at every age. So starting at elementary and going all the way up into adulthood, And so we have, maybe you're starting to read humor in elementary, and then superhero and historical in high school, all the way to memoir. But these genres of graphic novels can be interchanged, right? Superhero isn't limited to middle school readers. There are adult superhero graphic novels in elementary. Same goes for historical. There's elementary historical graphic novels and more adult ones. So it's really there's a lot of variation in the medium. Now, building on the last slide, here are some different types or genres of graphic novels. And these are some of the most popular types that you'll come across. The first one I have up here is manga. So these are Japanese comics, and I have Naruto as my example. The superhero story is very popular, right? This is all the Marvel and DC comics. And so I have the Infinity Gauntlet here as well. And this is more than just Marvel and DC. I know there's other types of superhero stories as well, but that's just the example. Nonfiction is another popular type. Obviously, these are based on facts, real events, and real people. And so we have Pedro in Me as our example as that. The adaptation, meaning it is adapted from another piece of work like TV or film, literature, even music. So we have, was it Homer's Odyssey as the example here? I've even seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer graphic novels. So it's neat. It's like taking an already visual medium, but putting it into the medium of books and graphic novels and keeping it visual. Fantasy. So these are stories of the impossible or the improbable. A lot of fantasy graphic novels. This is Nimona. And then personal narratives is another very popular genre. So autobiographical stories. Persepolis is my example here, which is a really great graphic novel if you have not already read it. Now, why would we read graphic novels? What is the point in promoting them and picking them up in general? Well, they promote literacy. And it does that in a number of different ways. The first is the motivation factor. So it has the ability to attract new and advanced readers to help them become lifelong learners or longer term readers. It can help with discerning readers as well. So those who may not be as interested in reading, they may find the visual elements of graphic novels to be really exciting and appealing as opposed to traditional prose or fiction. Struggling readers. So the illustrations in graphic novels can give them more contextual clues to what the meaning of the written narrative, right? Sometimes having that image of what is happening in a scene can help a lot as opposed to just reading words on a page. The graphic novels can also serve as an intermediary step towards more difficult reading. So just because a reader is starting with graphic novels does not mean they're going to forever stay at graphic novels, right? They can move on to other types of fiction as well. It's important to note, though, that graphic novels can be as simple or as complex as any other literature. So there's, it's not lesser than just because it has images. The text can be just as difficult to read as typical fiction. But what the benefit of graphic novels has is that it has the ability to present complex material in a readable text, right? And those illustrations really help with that comprehension. Special needs readers, the illustrations can give emotional context clues that can be missed with traditional reading. And then lastly, English language learners can really help to increase the vocabulary and English proficiency by reading graphic novels, especially because a lot of graphic novels, not all, but a lot use speech as the narrative, right? So it's giving that, the types of English slang that might be missed in traditional fiction. I'll also say it does provide a reading experience that embraces kind of the multimedia nature of today's culture. So it's giving young readers training in visual literacy, helping them read and interpret images, which is becoming an essential skill in our very visual world. And it's another way that patrons can experience art, right? It's exciting. Now, the notion that graphic novels are too simplistic to be regarded as serious reading is very outdated. The excellent graphic novels available today are linguistically appropriate reading material, and they demand the same skills that are needed to understand traditional works of prose fiction. Often graphic novels, they contain more advanced vocabulary than traditional books that are at the same age, grade, or interest level. So they require readers to be actively engaged in the process of decoding and comprehending a range of literary devices. So things like narrative structures and puns and point of view. Reading graphic novels can also help students develop critical skills necessary to read more challenging works, including the classics. In addition to the connections to analyzing text, graphic novels also inspire readers to understand and interpret information differently from how readers process traditional fiction. So they are real books. All right, we're going to get into some recommended reads now. But before we do that, we want to build our collection or go about, talk about how we go about building a collection rather. So I've given 4 kind of tips. The first is that we want to include a range of genres. So we want to do more than just bring in 100 Spider-Man comics. We want to have superhero and manga and fantasy and nonfiction, have all sorts of genres available to patrons and to readers. We might want to check if they are well reviewed, right? See authoritative review sites like Kirkus Reviews or Library Journal and see what the community is saying about them. We want to make sure that the graphic novels we are purchasing have wide appeal. So not just in the genre or the story, but also in format, right? So we're also bringing in like 4-panel strip graphic novels. So things like Garfield, graphic novels that don't have any text in them, right? That have no words at all. Audiobook graphic novels, which tend to be audiobook versions of graphic novels. But what I'm trying to say is that there's more than just Marvel and DC, and I understand that within those banners, there are many genres within, but I think it's fun to find stuff for all ages and for all reader interests. And then the last tip is to check whether it is a standalone or a completed series. So you want to take this into consideration if you're accepting donations or purchasing your own graphic novels. Graphic novel series often have multiple issues, and it makes more sense to purchase either all the volumes at once or to ensure that you are purchasing the latest volume as they release. I would always check to see if there is an omnibus version that has all the volumes in one place, makes it a lot easier, kind of narrows it down to just one book. But also, there are some series that are very, very long. If a series has 100 volumes, does it make sense to put money towards that as opposed to buying 5 series that are only 20 volumes long? So you might want to weigh your options there and choose what's best for your library. Another suggestion is you might want to purchase multiple copies of volume 1. The worst thing is when you go into the library and you see a series you really like, but the first book is gone, right? They have every other one. They have 2 through 30, but volume 1 is checked out. So purchasing 2 or 3 copies of the first volume is a good idea. It can hook new readers and get them started on the series, and then they can place holds to wait for the rest of the series to arrive for them. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're going to showcase some examples of titles you might want to include in your graphic novel collections. And this will work whether you're looking to start from scratch or if you're looking to just kind of refresh and revamp your current graphic novel collection. We'll get into how to shelve and organize the collection in a little bit, but I'm just going to show popular titles, and I will highlight a couple for each age range that are titles of interest that you might want to bring in. So for juvenile graphic novels, these are some of the more popular ones. Of course, there's Dogman and Cat Kid, Big Nate. The Babysitter's Club series is very popular. Amulet is a little bit of an older series, but still is very, very popular. But the first one I want to highlight is Pizza and Taco. And this is by author Stephen Shazkan. There are 5 volumes currently out, with a 6th one coming out this June. And it is for a younger reading level, so about kindergarten to grade 3. But the description, and this is the description for volume 1, is best friends Pizza and Taco engage in a hilarious campaign to prove which of them is best, inviting their friends Hot Dog and Hamburger to help them prove themselves during a popularity contest that tests the strength of their bond. So it sounds very funny. It's all about friendship and food, and just a good series to have on the shelf. This next one is called Swim Team. This is by author Johnny Christmas, and it is a standalone volume, so it's only a single issue. And this is for about grade 3 to grade 6 reading level, so a little bit older in the juvenile category. When she has to take Swim 101, middle schooler Bree must face one of her greatest fears, but with a little help from an elderly neighbor and former swim team captain, she becomes her school's best hope to beat their rival. So this has themes of sports and being a new student. It's realistic fiction, so it's not fantastical in any way, like fantasy elements. But yeah, another graphic novel of note. For young adults, here are some selections that you might want to include. Paper Girls is has been turned into an Amazon series and is very popular. Sabrina also has a TV show on Netflix. Speak, this is a graphic novel version of the fiction, original fiction version. Check Please, this hockey one, is a web comic. So these were originally released online, and then all the little comics were collected into a single book. So this is book 1 of all of the web comics. And then other ones, of course, there's Batman, X-Men, Miss Marvel. But let's take a look at this series. This is A Girl Called Echo. So it's by Catherine Vermette and illustrated by Scott B. Henderson. It is completed, so all 4 volumes are out and they are available. And this is about a grade 6 to grade 10 reading level. And the description is as follows. Echo Desjardins, a 13-year-old Métis girl, is struggling with her feelings of loneliness while attending a new school and living with a new foster family. Then, an ordinary day in Mr. B's history class turns extraordinary, and Echo's life will never be the same. During Mr. B's lecture, Echo finds herself transported to another time and place, a bison hunt on the Saskatchewan prairie, and back again to the present. So this is like a time travel series, and has Indigenous content as well. It's historical, it's Canadiana. So this is something I would recommend bringing into the library. This is called Let's Talk About It, A Teen's Guide to Sex, Relationships, and Being a Human. It is by Erica Moen and Matthew Nolan. It is a single volume, and this is a little bit older, so about grade 9 to grade 12, this would be appropriate for. Growing up is complicated. How do you find the answers to all the questions you have about yourself, about your identity, and about your body? Let's Talk About It provides a graphic novel guide to everything you need to know, covering relationships, friendships, gender, sexuality, anatomy, body image, safe sex, sexting, jealousy, rejection, sex education, and more. Let's Talk About It is the go-to handbook for every teen and the first in graphic novel form. So again, I wanted to show this because it's a different type of graphic novel, right? It's a nonfiction. It's a teen's guide, but it's maybe a more accessible piece of fiction for some teens, as opposed to reading about health and sex themes in a traditional nonfiction book. So yeah, growing up, gender identity, health, nonfiction, these are all the themes. Moving on to adult graphic novels. So we have Mouse, of course, which is up here. Watchmen is very popular. The Walking Dead is a very big series. Sandman has a new series on Netflix, I believe. Saga, you might have seen before, is another very popular kind of sci-fi fantasy series for adults. Sabrina won, I don't know if it won or was nominated for a Man Booker Prize, but is all about like conspiracy theories, which is really interesting. And then Black Sad down here is actually a French graphic novel that's been translated into English. So the first adult one I want to highlight is Lore Olympus. This is by Rachel Smith. There are 3 volumes currently out with 2 more on the way, one coming in June and one coming in October. And this is, of course, for adults. This is not for children. Scandalous gossip, wild parties, and forbidden love. Witness what the gods do after dark in this stylish and contemporary reimagining of one of mythology's most well-known stories from creator Rachel Smith. So a lot of mythology and gods and goddesses and magic in this series. This next one is called Ducks, 2 Years in the Oil Sands. And this is a recent release, I believe. It's by author Kate Beaton. It is 1 volume. It is a standalone graphic novel, and it is for adults. Before there was Kate Beaton, there was Katie Beaton of the Cape Breton Beatons, specifically Mabau, a tight-knit seaside community where the lobster is as abundant as beaches, fiddles, and Gaelic folk songs. With the singular goal of paying off her student loans, Katie heads out west to take advantage of Alberta's oil rush, part of the long tradition of East Coasters who seek gainful employment elsewhere when they can't find it in the homeland they love so much. Katie encounters the harsh reality of life in the oil sands, where trauma is an everyday occurrence, yet is never discussed. So again, this is a nonfiction. It is an autobiographical graphic novel. Has, Alberta's in it. It's kind of like local content. So this is one that I would also suggest bringing into your library. Gonna have some water, and now we're going to talk about manga. So manga, or some people call it manga, I believe it is manga. Manga is an umbrella term for a wide variety of comic books and graphic novels that are produced and published in Japan. So unlike American comic books, which are usually printed in full color, manga is almost always published in black and white. Full color prints of manga is really only for special releases. Now, an interesting thing about manga is that it's read right to left rather than left to right. So this can get some getting used to, or this can take some getting used to if you've only ever read English publications. But after you've practiced enough, you will hardly notice the difference, and you might even prefer it. Now, in Japan, manga is sorted into kind of demographic categories for boys and girls and men and women. Of course, anyone can read any category, but that's just how it is sort of established in Japan. So shonen titles, anything that is kind of under the banner of shonen, are geared towards tween and teen boys. So these have elements of action, adventure, and friendship. So popular titles include Dragon Ball, My Hero Academia, which is ongoing. Dragon Ball is completed, by the way. Jujutsu Kaisen, which is ongoing. One Piece, which is ongoing, and One Piece has over 100 volumes. So if you want to bring this one in, you'll have to maybe do it in chunks because it'll be quite expensive to do it all at once. Naruto is completed series as well, and Full Metal Alchemist is completed too. Shoujo are targeted towards tween and teen girls. These contain elements of romance, drama, and coming of age type stories. So we have things like Sailor Moon, which is completed, Fruits Basket, which is completed. Actually, all of these examples here are completed, I believe. Cardcaptor Sakura, Skip Beat, Ao Haru Ride, and Rose of Versailles is another one. All right, these are the more adult titles. So seinen titles are geared towards adult men, and these have themes of violence, action, and sex. So some popular titles include Akira, which is completed, Berserk, which is kind of completed, kind of ongoing. The series has been overtaken by another group of authors, I believe. Anyway, Vagabond, which is completed, Monster completed, Dorohedoro is completed, and I think Vinland Saga is completed as well. This one is all about Vikings, which is very cool. So it's kind of like a historical manga. Josei titles are for adult women, and they have elements of romance, sex, and drama. So these include things like Midnight Secretary, and I don't know if any of these are completed or incomplete. Sorry. But Midnight Secretary, we have Paradise Kiss, Wotakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku is what it's called. Given, Princess Jellyfish, and this title called Emma. Now, unfortunately, a large chunk of manga, specifically those that are targeted towards the male demographic, tend to feature a disproportionate amount of over-sexualized female characters. It's not unusual for female characters in manga to randomly lose their clothing or wear revealing clothing or be accosted in a sexual manner. Sexual assault is not something to be taken lightly. In manga, it is often played for laughs, unfortunately. But for these reasons, we do encourage patrons to double check and to read through manga before checking them out or giving them to children. There are plenty of thoughtful and well-developed series out there that are perfectly appropriate for readers of all ages, but we just want to make sure that everyone's aware of some of these themes. Because our job is not to censor readers, but we do want to empower and inform our patrons so that they can make their own decisions. And again, I only mention this as a warning to parents, educators, and to patrons before they unwittingly give someone the wrong type of material. So just something to be aware of. A term you might come across is called hentai, and that refers to a genre of manga that is characterized by overtly sexualized characters and sexually explicit images and plots. So if you see that, anywhere on a book that you're bringing in or from a site that you're ordering from, it's a word to know, right? Just to be aware. All right, let's go through some examples. Now, because it's manga, volumes are obviously released in Japan first. So the volumes that I'm listing in these following slides, I'm showing what is currently available in English. There's usually about a 3 to 4 month wait period after a volume releases in Japan, and then it's translated by an American company into English, but it's usually not too long after. So the first one is under the shonen demographic. This is Spy Family by Tetsuya Endo. There are currently 9 volumes in English, with more to come, and these are the first 6 volumes. And this is the description. It says, Not one to depend on others, Twilight has his work cut out for him, procuring both a wife and a child for his mission to infiltrate an elite private school. What he doesn't know is that the wife he's chosen is an assassin, and the child he's adopted is a telepath. So this is kind of like a comedic spy series. The next one is Library Wars, Love and War. This is by Kiro Yumi. This is completed, so there are 15 volumes and they are all available. It falls under the shoujo category, geared towards teen and tween girls. And I thought this one was interesting because it has, it's all to do with about censorship and banned books and libraries, which is very much our world. So the description is, Iku Kasahara has dreamed of joining the library forces ever since one of its soldiers stepped in to protect her favorite book from being confiscated in a bookstore when she was younger. But now that she's finally a recruit, she's finding her dream job to be a bit of a nightmare, especially since her hard-headed drill sergeant seems to have it in for her. So that is Library Wars. All right, here are some more adult titles. This is Grand Blue Dreaming by Kenji Inoue. It is ongoing, so there are 20 volumes currently. This is for the seinen demographic, geared towards adult men. And this one's interesting. It's all about a student who moves to a seaside town, and he ends up living in his uncle's diving business. And so hilarity ensues, and there's a lot of funny antics, I guess. But here's the description. It says, after graduating from an all-boys high school, Iora Kitahara moves away from home to go to a college in a seaside town. He's eager to start a new chapter in his life, one filled with dreams of reinventing himself, meeting beautiful girls, and reveling in his youth. But when his new abode is his uncle's dive shop, Iori's college debut doesn't turn out as glamorously as he planned. Can he keep himself afloat, or will the booze-fueled antics of his university's diving club wash him away? And the last one is under the josei category, so towards adult women. It is called Perfect World. It is by Rie Aruga, and there are 12 volumes out. It is a completed series. And this is the description. It's a company get-together reunites 26-year-old Sugumi with her high school crush, Itsuki. In the years they've been apart, Itsuki has realized his dreams of becoming an architect, but along the way, he suffered a spinal cord injury that's left him in a wheelchair. Seeing Itsuki again rekindles Sugumi's feelings for him. It also forces her to confront her own hidden prejudices. Itsuki's disability seems like an intimidating obstacle at first, but soon Sugumi discovers that her world feels imperfect without him. So that is Perfect World. All right, we're going to talk about some different award lists that you can check out if you are stuck building your collection and you want some ideas. The first one is the ALA Graphic Novels and Comics Roundtable. And this highlights the best graphic novels for adults and children each year. The list's goal is to increase awareness of the graphic novel medium, raise voices of diverse comic creators, and aid library staff in the development of graphic novel collections. And what's interesting about this one is that nominations can be made by all members of the public, which also includes committee members and ALA members. All right, next is the Harvey Awards. The Harvey Awards are one of the oldest and the most prestigious awards in the comics industry. And these recognize achievement in multiple categories. So there are lots of different award lists within the Harvey Awards. What else do we have here? This year, oh, sorry, I lost my place. This year's nominees are actually selected by a hand-picked contingent of industry voices and voted on by qualifying professionals. Okay. And the last is the Eisner Awards. These are considered the Oscars of the comic book industry, and they're given out each year in a gala ceremony at the San Diego Comic-Con. And they're named after cartoonist Will Eisner, who is a pioneer of graphic novels. There are more than 24 categories, and they cover everything from the best publications to the best creators from the previous year. So there are again, similar to the Harvey Awards, there are many lists within the Eisner Awards. All right, shelving. So shelving can be a little bit of a tricky spot, deciding where we should put the graphic novels, if we want to mix them in with the regular fiction collection. Do we want its own section? Personally, I'm a big fan of graphic novels having their own shelf location. I think this makes it easier for graphic novel readers to find what they're looking for. And it also takes it away from those who are looking for fiction. So we're preventing cases of fiction readers picking up a book, thinking it's a novel, and opening it to see that it is a graphic novel. So I think it's a good idea to separate them. I think it's also a good idea to have adult graphic novel collections and juvenile graphic novel collections. Even better if you have, separate sections. So it makes it really easy to find titles for an age-appropriate audience, and it does the work for patrons who might not know any better or have the assumption that all comics are for kids. It keeps the little ones away from reading inappropriate materials, but it also gives adults a space to explore age-appropriate graphic novels for themselves. We also want to talk about whether we want to sort them alphabetically, like by the author's last name, or if we want to sort them by series. If you're really ambitious, you can do some of these examples. These are sorted by series, but they're given little descriptions on what the series is actually about, and then they have all of the books in that series in one place. And then on the left side here, we have Marvel and DC comics in these giant bays, and I believe each one of these pockets is for a different superhero. So there's like X-Men down here and Miss Marvel up here, etc. Using spine labels can be a really effective way of keeping organized as well. Using juvenile, young adult, and adult labels on the side, like this one or on these examples here, can be an effective way of keeping organized and can give patrons, especially parents, peace of mind that what they're checking out for their kids is age appropriate. Even putting a graphic novel sticker on the side of graphic novels can be really helpful as well, right? Maybe you are shelving your graphic novels in with your fiction collection. If you have that sticker on there, then patrons are aware that that title is a graphic novel and it is not traditional fiction. Another idea for series is to print off numbers and attach them on the side. Now, most graphic novel series will have what volume number it is on the spine, but some don't. So in that case, you can print off or buy little stickers, and it makes it much easier for staff and patrons to know which book comes next. You don't have to go to the computer or search inside the book to find out. It's just right there and easy to understand. All right. The last thing we're going to talk about is Free Comic Book Day. Free Comic Book Day is the biggest event in the comic book industry. It's a single day when participating comic book specialty shops across North America and all around the world give away comic books for free. So anyone who comes into their shop, they get free comic books. Not any comic books. It's like a special type of comic book that they create for Free Comic Book Day. Now, why is this relevant to us? Well, they offer a library partner program. And I have the URL at the top here. And in this program, they send you 50 free comic books that you can distribute to your patrons. There's also the option to get a promotional package, and they also have email newsletters as well that will pass along information about expanding your collections and just keep you up to date on new comics and graphic novels. Now, Free Comic Book Day is coming up in May. That is May 6th. Unfortunately for us, enrollment has closed for this year due to overwhelming demand. Now, when I was putting this webinar together about a month ago, which would have been in March, I checked the library partner program and it was closed at that point. So if you are interested in being a part of this program, I would suggest applying 3 to 4 months ahead, even in January, see if the website has been updated and you can apply, just so you don't risk enrollment being closed and losing out on 50 free comic books. If you still wish to participate though, Free Comic Book Day does suggest that you reach out to your local comic shop if you have one, and then maybe work out something with them. Before we go, I will say we do have a growing graphic novel collection on Overdrive and Cloud Library. So if you have patrons who are looking for titles and you don't have them physically available, if they are e-readers, then they might want to check out one of those resources as well. So if you just go under Overdrive or Cloud Library and search the graphic novel tags, you should be able to find a big list of everything that is available. But if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, or you'd like to learn a little bit more about any of the topics, you can always contact me at dlotoski@peacelibrarysystem.ab.ca. And yeah, thanks everyone. We will see you at the next one.